hopefully that is a good sign. The library appears, for the time being anyway.
A great deal of confidence that everything was okay. They had sent in some fresh crews to do the finishing up work, but the person I spoke to seemed confident that everything was okay. And then almost suddenly things started to go backwards.
This still appears to be that still appear to be a vantage point from the parking ramp in downtown Grand Forks. We're looking, it's unclear whether this particular fire involves actually it could involve buildings behind the North 4th Street buildings. In fact, it may involve, and again, this is not confirmed, these may be fires on the north side of that block.
We don't know how successful their current efforts with the water and the helicopter. ABC affiliate in the Twin Cities. Pool coverage provided for us of the devastation of downtown Grand Forks. It's a building that contained the Browning Art Studio, the parking ramp to the right, just going out of the frame now to get your bearings here. The flames, the fire started in the security building. They jumped to other buildings, and it looks to me like some are almost untouched. I could be wrong about that, but it looks like it skipped and jumped around a great deal. First National Bank building. Looks like the upper level, the upper floor, particularly heavily damaged. The firefighters tried everything within their power last night to try and lick this thing, and they seem to be winning the battle. Overnight, late into the morning, things seem to improve. Now, this is now is this the Fargo? This is Grand Forks. This is all Grand Forks. Okay, I misunderstood. I thought this was the Fargo. This is aerial footage of the Grand Forks area. And I'm trying hard. It looks. I was just going to say it looks like the university area to me. There's a load of water as it's being taken out of the Red River, and this is earlier this morning. I'm going to read this message. Eric from East Grand Forks evacuation. As far as we've heard of unknown origin, but big spread damage. The security building, and to the left of that, Greg's Landing nightclub. If you know that area, you know what we're looking at. Again, the security building, and I don't know what that is. A building next to Bonzer's. I can't place it. I can't tell you what the business was. Someone was telling me it's possibly the building that housed the High Plains Reader newspaper. We're seeing this for the first time, and Looking at it without any information handed to us. Again, the flames seem to skip from building to building with no particular pattern. It looks to me as if some are relatively untouched, if not completely untouched, and yet others...
Because of the overflowing Red River, water crashed through sandbag and dirt dikes, submerging parts of the town in minutes.
This disaster is devastating our state. Matter of fact, it's a statewide disaster. We're kind of concentrated here in the Red River Valley, but we had a very hard winter. We had a bad spring storm a couple of weeks ago. We've got about 100,000 head of cattle that have died, that are carcasses are rotting. It's getting into our aquifers and municipal water systems and things in the western part of the state. We have the National Guard pulling those out, disposing them with the help of the health department of the state. So not only are we fighting problems here, we're fighting problems in the rest of the state.
I think the south in Fargo, a new
severely damaged 11 buildings in the downtown area. Helicopters are being used to dump buckets of muddy floodwater on the blaze. Firefighters say it should be contained. From the city's mayor says his community will survive.
Tried to battle the blaze. At one point, the truck that was just below us, which seemed to be the only one that we could see from our vantage point, ran out of gas. So there's lots of problems and logistical problems that they're trying to deal with in fighting these blazes as of last night. And you can see the blaze burning out some of the back of the buildings, then working its way to the front and burning out the front of the buildings. We saw many of the buildings just collapse, or at least the front part of the buildings collapse. This is early on from when they were there, because later you'll see these buildings also burning. This is fairly early when we first got there, late last night and on into the early morning.
In the morning, right around there?
That's right, and we were there for, as you can see, one of the explosions there. As the fire started to spread from building to building, working its way down to the corner, we were there for at least well over an hour, or 2 hours possibly, at the time there. And it's amazing, as Chris and I were commenting just a moment ago watching this video, it looks a little bit dark here, but how bright it was just standing across the street, how intense the flame was, that you could feel the fire across the street, and how hot and warm it made your body looking at it, and how bright it was to the eyes. There was debris, as we mentioned, flying through the air, and that's kind of what was spreading the fire from some of the buildings across the street. And this, we had been in this location earlier in the afternoon when the fire originally started, down a block down, and some of the debris had floated down and started a building on fire, and that's how some of these fires kind of spread in a big black cloud of smoke shooting up from some of the buildings that you could see. And the sound of the fire was another thing that struck, I think, both of us. You could hear glass popping as things were burning. You could hear the sizzle of the flames, the crackle of the flames. It's an experience one of us will never forget, a very horrifying experience, obviously, for everybody, especially those who have businesses down in this area or live in this area.
Yes, and there are several apartments in that area, too.
That's right.
Upstairs of these office buildings. And were people being evacuated at this point?
We were the only two, other than the firefighters or the rescuers, that were in the area at this time. There was nobody else there. We did not see any other evacuations. We saw rescue vehicles and rescue personnel and firefighters and the National Guard all patrolling the area. And we saw firefighters from everywhere, from the base to the Grand Forks firefighters to others that had come in. And it was just a nightmare trying to find a way for them to pump this water. It was so interesting to see. There's all of this water surrounding them, but they were having a problem getting water because they couldn't pump it up and pump it out onto the flames where they needed to send the water. And trucks were barely able to get through. I don't think I want to have to try to explain the route that we took to get there.
Yeah,
and Chris and I have vowed to never, ever attempt this again. We don't want to attempt this again, and obviously hopefully something like this happens again. But it was difficult just getting there. We had to kind of hoof it on foot, basically, to get to this location and get this video. But it was just, it was hard for both of us to shoot and watch as this was happening, just looking at it, knowing what was going on across the street.
You were in about chest-high water at that point, weren't you, walking through there?
For most of the way, it was between knee-high and chest-high, and it kind of, as you went to a street and an intersection, strong current coming through. So it was like little rivers going through, and you can see the intensity and the heat of some of the flames as it's spreading a blue flame. At the hottest portion, obviously, and explosions happening, one from another, as the fire now has worked its way down to Heritage Corner, down at the end there. And these were buildings that earlier on in this video that we saw that were not on fire. So,
so this is North 4th Street we're looking at right now.
That's correct. That's correct. And at the time we were
They can help you over on this side.
got room for a couple more on here, huh?
The